Smells like football, baby.
What's up, people? Welcome into the Fantasy Football Smackdown. I'm your host, Kyle August. It is Saturday, which means it's Waiver Wire sniping time. These are the players that you need to stash ahead of the Week 10 kickoff to be ahead of your league mates on that Week 11 Waiver Wire. So appreciate checking out today's show. Of course, it's been another great week here on the Warzone network of podcasts. Just content anywhere you look. So appreciate you guys checking out all of our shows throughout the entire season. The regular season is counting down here for fantasy football, and the playoffs will be here before you know it. But let's just dive right into this thing. These are the players that you need to be stashing now. If you have any extra roster spots on your bench, take a look and see. We got two teams on bye in Week 11. We have the Broncos and the Rams. Looking at some quarterback streamers this week, honestly, overall, I think that there's some okay options, no slam dunk options this week. So if you want to stash another position, got no problem with that because I don't think there's a guy that you have to have type of player. Jimmy G would be the top of the board for me. He's been hot, 2 20-plus point games against Jacksonville in Week 11. Jacksonville did hold Josh Allen just last week to obviously a very poor performance. But before that, they gave up 19 or more fantasy points to 6 of 7 quarterbacks on the year. So we'll see if Jimmy G can stay hot in Week 10, and he's going to be a streaming option in Week 11 more than likely. In that same game, Trevor Lawrence is my number 2 option, 36% owned. San Francisco gives up the 4th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Taylor Heineke is number 3 on this list. He's 15% owned, the most widely available streaming option. He gets Carolina, probably the toughest matchup of anybody on this list. Carolina has held 4 quarterbacks to 10 points or less on the season, but a lot of those names are players that just haven't performed very well. Heineke has been hot and cold this season. We'll see if he gets back on track after the bye week. So keep an eye on his matchup this week to see how much you can trust him in Week 11. Mac Jones gets the Falcons, who give up the 5th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, but Jones just hasn't been much of a fantasy performer this season. So keep that in consideration. And then Daniel Jones is number 5. He gets Tampa Bay. It's going to be on the road. Jones, after starting off hot, he's been really cold as of late. So again, these are guys that you don't feel super comfortable with. But one note I'll make here on the quarterbacks before we move on. Tua, who entered the game at halftime on Thursday Night Football, he is not eligible for this concept because you can't pick him up now. He already played. He's on waivers. You have to put in a claim for him. He's 24% owned, but he gets the Jets next week. So this could be a player that maybe just wait it out a little bit and just pick him up off waivers on Tuesday. Put those claims in for him. So there you go with the quarterbacks for this week. At running back, my top stash is Eno Benjamin. There's a few other guys on here that I think are more likely to get work out of the gate, in Week 10 and see how that pans out. But Eno Benjamin filling in for Chase Edmonds, who's going to be out at least a month, maybe more. I want that piece of Eno Benjamin. I think his likelihood to help you over the next 4 weeks is a little bit more than some of these other running backs. So I'm trying to stash Eno Benjamin, just seeing how that split turns out for the Cardinals. Do keep in mind that Arizona's bye is in Week 12, so we're gonna miss at least 1 week of having Eno Benjamin, even if he hits. Jordan Howard's number 2 at 48% owned. We know what this guy's been doing. He's been hot. Miles Sanders could be back, according to himself, but we'll see. Howard was signed to the 53-man roster this week, so definitely should be owned in a little bit more than 48% of leagues. Alex Collins is number 2 on this list. He's been banged up and splitting carries with Penny. But hopefully coming off the bye, he's a little bit more healthy. And it sounds like Chris Carson's out at least this week. So I'm going to stash Alex Collins just to see. Because if Carson continues to be out, I think Collins is the lead back for the Seahawks. Jeff Wilson's number 4, 20% owned. This is a guy that was just activated off the PUP list. Didn't see any action for the 49ers last week. But keep an eye on him in Week 10. This could be a guy that you want on your rosters. And number 5 on this list is Ramondre Stevenson, 14% owned. We'll see if he plays this week. As of right now, he's still questionable with a concussion, as is Damian Harris, but just a guy worth stashing, I think. Some deep league stashes. These guys interest me a lot. Number 1 is Donta Foreman. We know AP is going to get some looks there in Tennessee, but Foreman was a little bit more productive with his touches last week. So, again, keep an eye on this Tennessee Titans offense. See how this pans out, because I think Foreman could potentially be the guy that you want to own there, and he's only 2% owned right now. Jarrett Patterson is the other one for the Washington football team. He's 1% owned. Last time we saw Washington and Antonio Gibson, Patterson was getting looks. He was getting carries. So we'll see if Gibson healed up at all on Washington's bye. But again, Patterson's a guy you don't want to forget about, in my opinion. Wide receivers. AJ Green's on this list at 45% owned. He was activated off the COVID list for the Cardinals. Sounds like Kyler Murray's going to be back, but not so sure about DeAndre Hopkins. The Cardinals, like I mentioned earlier, have a bye week in week 12. So it could be likely that the Cardinals just look to rest DeAndre Hopkins, not only this week, but potentially next week as well. Not sure how much there is to benefit from bringing him back if he sits out week 10, to bring him back week 11 when they know they have a bye and they can just give him an extra 2 weeks off in that case. So AJ Green's a guy that I'm looking to roster right now as a potential fill-in guy. Rondell Moore's also already been ruled out, I believe, for week 10. So again, AJ Green could be looking at some more targets in this Cardinals offense. Tyler Johnson's another. He's 6% owned, widely available. Chris Godwin, game time decision this week. That'll be a huge factor as to whether or not you can play Johnson this week. But it doesn't sound like Antonio Brown is any closer to returning. So Tyler Johnson's a guy I'm looking to stash. Next 3 guys on this list are all players that are on bye this week. So people are going to forget about these guys. But Sterling Shepard sounds like he may be back. You don't get a lot of news through the bye weeks, but he's been injured. But if he's back out there, he's definitely a wide receiver 3 type for fantasy football. He's only 34% owned. Kadarius Toney is very similar to Shepard, but unfortunately for this Giants offense, we haven't seen everybody healthy all at one time. So it's hard to judge these guys, but I try to stash those guys just to see. And Darnell Mooney, kind of the same thing, coming off a big game, but then headed into the bye week. If this Bears offense turns it around just a little bit, he's a guy that's worth rostering, and he's 45% owned. Deep stash has got one for you at wide receiver, and it's Josh Palmer. Keenan Allen a little bit banged up. He's been on the injury report this week. Mike Williams does not seem like himself either. And Palmer's a rookie wide receiver that's been working his way into this offense, been seeing more playing time. He had a touchdown just a few weeks ago. If you're in a super deep league, Josh Palmer is a guy that I'm looking to stash just in case, because it looks like there could be 2 situations with injuries there in LA, unfortunately. But fingers crossed, hopefully not. Hopefully everybody's at full strength, but Palmer's still a guy I'm looking to stash. Tight end streamers. No idea why Dan Arnold is only 26% owned still in Yahoo leagues. This makes 0 sense. The dude is a tight end 1, 60 yards or more in 3 of his last 4. He's been seeing a good amount of catches and targets as well. This is sustainable. Dan Arnold needs to be rostered in more leagues. This is a guy that's not just a streamer. This guy's an every week start, in my opinion, as of right now going forward. In week, he's got the Colts this week, then San Fran, Atlanta, the Rams, Tennessee, Houston, the Jets. Through week 16. I mean, plenty of good matchups in there. And with his target volume, this is a guy that you can play and trust every single week. Adam Troutman's number 2. His targets have definitely gone up over the last 2 weeks. It hasn't led to much production yet, but they've been featuring him in this offense, making other tight ends inactive they were using early in the season. Troutman is a guy at 5% owned you could look to stream as well if you are the Noah Fant owner, as an example, with the Broncos on bye next week, or Higbee, obviously. And number 3 on this list, I was going to put Evan Ingram almost. He's only owned in 30% of leagues. He has touchdowns in back-to-back games, but we'll see what this Giants offense looks like with a lot of people back healthy. Kenny G was already back last week. Sterling Shepard hopefully will be back in week 11. So I'm going to go with O.J. Howard. I think it's a little bit more upside here. Sounds like Gronk's going to be out for at least 2 to 3 more weeks, according to Bruce Arians. So I would say that probably means 3 to 4. Just the way that coach speak usually goes. So O.J. Howard, only 2% owned, would be my 3rd streamer. So Dan Arnold, Adam Troutman, O.J. Howard. And last but not least, the DSTs. I got 2 for you. This is the same matchup. Carolina and Washington, they're going to face off against each other. I'm gonna go with Carolina as my number 1 target. They're 30% owned. They've been fairly decent for fantasy purposes. They've been around 7 or 8 points in 3 of their last 4 games. Washington is the other ad here. Again, same matchup. I like the fact that we don't even know what Carolina's quarterback situation is going to be like. I think this will probably be a lower scoring game in week 11. So these are DSTs that you can target. So there you have it. There are your waiver wire sniping options for this week. Good luck to you in week 10. Add a few of these guys, stash them on the end of your bench, and don't fret the waiver wire in week 11. I'll be back here on the Fantasy Football Smackdown on Tuesday to talk about the waiver wire show. But best of luck to you guys this week, and we'll catch you later. See ya.